Well, hello everybody. Today I want to tidy up a couple of details for the Detective Notes program I've been working on. Here's what I want to do. First, I need to fix a few minor problems with the text layout. If I show you quickly, new game, who suspects something, 0, player 0 suspects mustard, and there's no space there, which is mildly annoying. So first I'm going to fix that small problem. Then I want to be able to give the players human names. So that is the human players, their actual names. So when you begin a new game, you type in the names of your players. Probably want to store that so that if you start a second game, you'll be able to type in the same names. I find it helpful to be able to say person by name instead of having to count them by number. So trying to make this user interface as friendly as possible. I think that will help. Then then I want to be able to enable the changes to the cards so that the users can say, well, actually, we're not playing with this set of cards, we're playing with a different set, or doing stuff. I may not get to that today. We'll see what I can do with the first one shouldn't take very long, and then we'll just carry on. So here's our document. I'm pretty sure just sticking on a space here will fix that first problem, but we may need to change how that's handled later. That probably handles that problem. So the second problem, as I said, I want to give the human players real names. This will be a bit trickier, but it means changing up the new game thing. It means getting rid of that select at the beginning. Probably giving everyone a text box so that you can add all of the players just by having their player name. Or perhaps creating... I'm mostly feeling the text box, which some people may not like, but the two options I have here are text box or individually chosen. How many cards does this player have? Select box, well, it would just be individual boxes or one big box for everybody. Right now I think I'm going to go with an individual box for everybody. And I think I'm going to bring it up in a dialogue. So for now, all I need, I'm going to get rid of this selection. Obviously I won't be able to refer to that very soon. The best way of making a dialogue box, of making a string come up, is probably just making a box in the middle of the screen and making it fixed position, eh? So if we make a fixed div which can appear in the middle when required and then will disappear also as required, we'll put it in the body still, but this div will be hidden. So its ID will be dialog1, and its class will probably be, if I just set its class to hidden, then I can play with that later. I'll change its class later and remove hidden and add the other thing. And inside this, we're going to need a text box. Is it text box? Something like text box. I'll have to check that up. We can probably put some string in here. Let's see what happens if we refresh this. Well, there's a div here. I've got a class of hidden. But maybe it's just that there's nothing in it. Let's add a button. We'll call this one and this one will be a begin button, won't it? Begin. I have no idea where the... Okay, so this is the div we're working with. The text box is clearly not the thing we're looking to use, so I'm just going to have a quick look for text. It's text area, isn't it? There we go. We got our text area. Good. And this text area is going to need a label too. So we'll put the label down for this. It's not called a label in this, is it? It's just a paragraph. Forget the paragraph. We'll just write player names brackets. What do you reckon? Comma separated? In order around the table. And then inside this text area, we need to give that a bit more space. So let's just quickly look up how we do text areas, extra lines, text, HTML5 text area num lines. So here we go. This this should give me rows for columns 50. So I can do that. I can set a number of rows. That's actually relatively straightforward. We'll allow for 6, I think. Rows equals 4. No, I was going to say 6. Columns. We'll give it columns. Columns equals... Names shouldn't be more than 10 long, so I'm going to say 15 as a safety. Oh, not quite sure what I hit then. I entered visual mode. Norm. Visual. I didn't enter visual mode, I entered some other weird mode that... Keeping. So. In theory, now when we go back to our web page... Oh, of course. Who forgets to put that BR on? Okay, we should probably put a BR after the text area. The other thing we'd like in this box, of course, might end up needing to be a table so that I can separate them tidily. So, someone's here, we can enter. What? Is that already? Oh, has that got a new line in it because I... How silly. That will be All those spaces. Control R that. We'll probably need to set a bunch of default player names to add later. But if we just put players 1, 2, and 3 in that string, we won't worry about that. We'll set that when someone hits new game, because we're not going to show this dialogue normally. I'm actually going to put class hidden in. No, I'm not going to get rid of that just yet. The other thing that, of course, we're going to need is, well, this is the only thing we're going to work with right now. And then we can have our array of players, which will also be added to the game, I think. The game.names. So new game now doesn't do what we thought it did. New game brings up the dialogue. So if we call this new game dialogue, and we call this button on click equals new game, then we can have two styles here. We need a div. No, it's not div. We're going to work on the ID, which I think is done with a hash. Now, what did we call that div? 2 seconds ago, we called it something. Dialogue 1. Dialogue 1. We can give this all kinds of fancy properties. Fixed. Top 20. Bottom? Yep. 20. I should make those. I should actually write the word px. Probably not ideal to write px. It's basically gonna fill the screen. This div, because we want it to do everything for us. Left 20px. Is it right again? Right 20px. So basically what I'm going to do is hopefully have this so it fills the middle of the screen. Hopefully if this works, I should be able to Control R. We now have this div blocking out everything else. But we also need to have a class hidden. Oh, did I just tab? Okay, that's fine. And this is dot hidden because classes are represented with dots, and of course it's display none. So when I Control R over here, we get rid of that dialogue, and our new game dialogue can be filled. So currently this will, if we click on that, it won't do anything. We need to make that new game dialog function. We'll put it near the top. Make options, card select, make select. Function new game dialog. And the actual dialogue, dialogue equals, oh, it should be a var, I think. Var dialogue equals get element, oh, document dot get element by ID, and this was dialogue 1. Then dialogue dot remove class hidden. I hope that's how this works. Let's try. So when I click on new game, Control-Shift-I. Remove class is not a function. Okay, so JS remove class. What's happened to my internet? I don't want to use jQuery. How to remove a class attribute from a div. Remove attribute class should work. Okay, so I can probably remove attribute class on the entire thing. Attribute class. And in theory, then we come back here, we refresh our page, hit new game, and our little box comes up with stuff. And no background. It's definitely going to need a background. I want to only see what's in that, so it's near the top somewhere. Background colon. We just say white. That should fix this. New game. Covers up everything. And we can click begin. Actually, even if we click this again, it won't do too much harm. Begin will absolutely wipe everything out using the data we've got in here. So I think when we start it up, the next thing we need to do is we need to fill that table with potential names, and I think I'm just going to call them P1, P2 and P3, all on new lines. So what did I call that div? What did I call that text area? I didn't. I'm going to need to give that text area a name. Text area ID equals txt underscore names. Player names. Player names. And then in our new game dialog, we can do var p names equals document.get element by id, and this was text player names. And the text in that p names dot, what do you reckon it is? Do you reckon it's just text? Probably is, eh? Text equals p1 p2, new line, p2 p3 semicolon. That way we can have as many players as we want, because of course actually we're not limited to just 6 players in Cluedo. People can probably make new lines in the area without any problem. So if I save this, come back here, Control R. It wasn't text. Value, what do you reckon? HTML5 text area. Why is internet so slow today? Let's just look here again. So we have a bunch of properties: autofocus, form, max length name, placeholder, required windows, wrap. None of those are actually useful. I've got to find a way of getting the contents. It's inner HTML. No. It looks a bit like inner HTML. But that seems risky. What if someone writes something with a -r or some JavaScript in the middle of it? We offer free tutorials. Don't forget that. So that's the text area. So if I try inner HTML, this might work. But it may not be ideal. New game. No, that didn't. Did I save that? Saved it now. New game. Is he getting the right thing? Get a sec user data. I have no use of that. Oh, right, okay. That's a Chrome problem. So we'll ignore that. Control R. New game. Nothing there. So, inner HTML doesn't do it. Text area, set contents. How to change the content of a text area with JavaScript. Oh. I think I'm going to use value. There. Okay. Value makes most sense, actually. Now I think about it, that should be safe. That's okay. So we've got these, and then I push a P4 here, and we click begin, and a new game starts. But a few things need to happen. Let's see if we can add a class hidden on that button click. So it's a new game. Next, next. There we go. Nope, next. New game. and we'll hide that. First thing we'll try and do, document.getElement by ID. This was dialog 1. Did I put dot set attribute class hidden. That ought to work. Let's see. Control R, new game, begin. It did the hiding thing. Oh, but it doesn't. It's it's thrown wobbly because it doesn't know. Aha! Somewhere in our new game, we grab select number players dot value. And that's not what we want to use anymore. In fact, what we want is our plist. That's our player list equals document dot get element by ID. And the element we're going to get this time is, of course, a text area. It's text player names and then with that we're going to make an array. Oh, we haven't. Does the game exist at this point? We create it here. And we don't yet know who all the players are yet, but that's okay. I actually am going to have an array of player names that is separate, that turns their names to numbers. The challenge here is if I'd like to just store them players here by name, instead of storing them by their number. But then I lose their position around the table, and because of the way I actually use it, their position around the table is very important in Cluedo. So I'm going to create a separate array in the game called players, and I'll just add that after here. But to get the num players, m players, we are going to need to do a little bit of work before we create that. So, tell you what, pull this to the top. We're making a new game. Then we don't need that anymore. Game dot players. No, names. We'll call it names. And this is going to be the list of names. I'm going to have to do a bit of a for loop here, aren't I? Can I scan through a text by line? Probably. Let's have a quick peek. JS scan text by line. Can't believe how slow this is. Asking the internet anything. I really don't want to use jQuery or anything. I probably could save myself a lot of time. Reader.onload progressive event console.log lines. Oh, of course. Split. if I just do a split on new line, games equals plist dot value dot split new line. Then in theory, every player's name will be through like that. And then m players equals the game dot names dot length. I think we've basically got we'll at least get the right number of players through. The next thing will be to associate their names somehow. But I think that shouldn't be too hard because it's filling the buttons correctly will be the challenge, and that shouldn't. I think I can make that work from this. So Control R, make sure we've got the right file. New game. So we've got these. Then if I click begin, we have 0, 1, and 2. Brilliant. So that's 3 players have been added to the game, and they all do the appropriate thing in the study, and no 0 responded. Okay. So we didn't really learn a whole lot, but what if we change it? What if we add another player? If we add Dave. Begin. We now have 4 players. What if we get rid of these? Begin. Yeah, that's kind of a pointless game with 0 players, but the fact is it works. So from that we can make some more. We can make those buttons do a thing like that. Then we have a function. Make sure I'm in the right window. The function we have was make options, I think. Make options. And now I think we now need to change. We now need to take another parameter here, and we'll call it values. And very lazily, we'll say at the very top, this is our handling defaults thing. If values equals undefined, values equals options. So what we're saying here is, of course, when we're looking for the room, we don't need to send two copies of the same array. It's just a very lazy way of allowing me not to bother sending it twice if I don't need to. And now here is where the trick comes in. This now becomes values, right? Oh, oops. Values. And the last place this needs to change is when we do our card select function. Oh, and the first time we call this, the make option. So let's find the function make options. This is called on a number of occasions. The game.players, which is correct, but this time it's the game.names. Oh, that's the wrong way around. This one should be names. And this one should be players. So the values, the names are going to go into the actual content of the button, and their number is going to go into the function that's responded. Where's our next? Make options. No, that's just the cards, so that doesn't need to be done. But here is the other place where it should need to be done. And this is the game.names. Now in theory, we now have new game, and if I write Dave, Davina, and David, and click begin, who suspects Dave, Davina, or David? And if I click Davina, player 1 suspects Mustard, with the candlestick in the conservatory. Who responded? That's player 2, David. That worked. So we've actually managed to add the correct names, so our player names are now added to the new game dialog. That's pretty cool. The next challenge is to do it at the output where we show their names. It's asking who suspects something with a 0, 1, 2 here. For the second time we ask. Of course. And so there is at least one other place where make options is called. So let's just check that. Make options. No. It's here, it's this one. The game.names. So that should fix that problem. So if I do a new one, and we call it Andrew, Andrina, Andris. We click begin. Now it goes Andrew, White. Oh, I'm not quite sure what happened to my mouse there. Dagger, study. And we're back to who responds? Oh, Andris responds. Hey, we got some actual information on the board. Brilliant. I need to ask questions to get information. And then we've got the names again on the question. So I'm pretty happy with that for now. Next challenge is to see if we can add their names to the table. And I think we can. It'll make the table a bit wider. Oh, and the other place I'd like to have it is when we click new game, that it defaults to keeping the names we've added instead, right? So, which one should I do first? I'll do that one first, and then I'll see about getting their names on the table second. So, so it's the new game button, but it's new game dialog's the function. New game dialog. The question becomes if, here it is, if the game does not equal undefined. Undefined. Oh, undo that. If the game does not equal undefined, then can I just do an array, a string, join, new line? There's got to be an easy JavaScript join. JS join string array. If I can call it in a single function, that's just a little bit tidier, right? Array join method. It doesn't say jQuery there, does it? So, if I just take an array of string and click join, that's not quite what I'd like though. The default separate, the elements will be separated by a specified, the default separated as a comma. So if I put in quotes what I want, so I can actually put p here we go. If the game does not equal undefined pnames dot value equals the game dot join, no, the game dot names dot join, and I will join them with a new line separator. And now we go back here, Control R, new game, and now we put the names in again. Pete, Andrew, Sam, begin, and I go new game. We now have Pete, Andrew, and Sam are in there. As they were before. Brilliant. Nice to know that I can add that so tidily. That will probably help with the next challenge, which I'm going to work on. Again, tidying this up will take some more work. I'd like to make the fonts a touch bigger. And so if Pete asks for mustard, lead pipe and the study, and Sam responds, then we know that Andrew doesn't have mustard, lead pipe, or study. And their names are on, except the only thing we're missing, maybe this is okay actually, because their names come in a nice tidy line across the top. I was going to put their names on the table, but that would make the columns so much wider, and I don't really want the columns that much wider. And when there's nothing going on, the table is in a good state. We can see all the names. So I actually don't think we need to. I think we know we can say Pete is the first, Andrew is the second, and Sam is the third. So I'm not going to bother adding that to the table. I am going to have a quick peek and see if I can work out how to make the text all show a little bit bigger. So, is there like a natural zoom or something? JS make, no, it's HTML5, HTML5 make all text bigger. HTML5 big tag not supported. So what do we do? Introduction. Is there just like a CSS I can do? I don't want to use that. It's got to be a CSS, right? CSS on all text. CSS text bigger. Oh, if I just put that on the body, that will probably fix that problem nice and tidily. So if I just do somewhere up here, body, font size, colon, 200%, semicolon. I save that, go back here, and if I refresh, that's interesting, it hasn't changed the sizes on the buttons. But I can probably do that here. Font size. I think I'll probably only make it 150%. I don't want it to be too much bigger, but I do want it to be readable on a smaller screen, and so this might help. And if I Control R that, So let's make this 150%. Make the buttons 120%. Oh, over here, Control R. I hope I haven't done anything. New game, that's better. Player names in order around the table. Begin. P1, P2. New game, let's change their names so they're a bit longer. Andrew, Sam, Steve, someone. So, if Andrew suspects mustard with the lead pipe in the conservatory, and someone responds, we find out that Sam and Steve don't have mustard, lead pipe, or the conservatory. I'm going to leave that there for now. I think there's plenty more that can still be done to make this a bit tidier. Actually, I'm going to add a head. Just going to add a title, Detective Notes at the top. And then we'll call it a day. Header 1, Detective Notes. Header 1. Then we come back, Control like that. Detective Notes, new game. Steve, someone, Andrew, Pete. Begin. So we have all of our players. And again, Steve suspects White with the lead pipe in the library. Pete responds. We have our information. So I'm going to leave that there. Next week, maybe I will get the counting of cards working, so we know how many cards people have, and if they fill out all their cards, we can say that we know something else, like we know that they don't have any other cards. Call that a day. So there was my quit. Don't forget to like and subscribe, by the way. See you soon.